Is artistic ability a gift? Despite the widespread belief that intelligence is born, not made, when we really think about it, it's not so hard to imagine that people can develop their intellectual abilities. The intellectual is so multifaceted. You can develop verbal skills or mathematical scientific skills or logical thinking skills and so on. But when it comes to artistic ability, it seems more like a God-given gift. For example, people seem to naturally draw well or poorly. Even I believe this, while some of my friends seem to draw beautifully with no effort and no training, my drawing ability was arrested in early grade school. Try as I might, my attempts were primitive and disappointing. I was artistic in other ways. I can design, I'm great with the colors, I have a subtle sense of composition, plus I have really good eye-hand coordination. Why couldn't I draw? I must not have the gift. I have to admit that it didn't bother me all that much. After all, we do. You really have to draw? I found out that one evening as the dinner guest of a fascinating man. He was an older man, a psychiatrist, who had escaped from the Holocaust. As a 10-year-old child in the Czechoslovakia, he and his younger brother come home from school one day to find their parent gone. They had been taken. Knowing there was an uncle in England, the two boys walked to London and found him. A few years later, lying about his age, my host joined the Royal Air Force and fought for Britain in the war. When he was wounded, he married his nurse. Went to medical school and established a thriving practice in America. Over the years, he developed a great interest in owls. He thought of them as embodying characteristics he admired, and he liked to think of himself as owlish. Besides the many owl statuettes that adorned his house, he had an owl-related guestbook. It turned out that whenever he took a shine to someone, he asked them to draw an owl and write something to him in this book. As he extended this book to me and explained its significance, I felt both honored and horrified. Mostly horrified. All the more because my creation was not to be buried somewhere in the middle of the book, but was to adorn its very last page. I won't dwell on the intensity of my discomfort or the poor quality of my artwork, although both were painfully clear. I tell the story as a prelude to the astonishment and joy I felt when I read drawing on the right side of the brain. Below are the before and after self-portraits of people who took a short course in drawing from the author, Betty Edwards. That is, they are a self-portrait drawn by the student when they enter her course and 5 days later when they had completed it. Aren't they amazing? At the beginning, these people didn't look as tough. They had much artistic ability. Most of their pictures reminded me of my own, but only a few days later, everybody could really draw, and Edwards swears that this is a typical group. It seems impossible. Edwards agrees that most people view drawing as a magical ability that only a select few possess and that only a select few will ever possess. But this is because people don't understand the learnable component of drawing. Actually, inform us they are not drawing skills at all, but seeing skills. They are the ability to perceive age, spaces, relationship, lights, shadow, and the whole. Drawing requires us to learn each component skill and then combine them into one process. Some people simply pick up these skills in the natural course of their life, whereas others have to work to learn them and put them together. But as we can see from the after self-portrait, everyone can do it. Here is what this means. Just because some people can do something with little or no training, it doesn't mean that others cannot do it, and sometimes do it even better with training. This is so important because many people with a fixed mindset think that someone's early performance tells you all you need to know about their talent and their future. Jackson Pollock. It would have been a real shame if people discouraged Jackson Pollock for that reason. Experts agree that Pollock had a little native talent for art, and when you look at his early project, it showed. They also agree that he became one of the greatest American painters of the 20th century and that he revolutionized modern art. How did he go from point A to point B? Twyla Sharp, the world-famous choreographer and dancer, wrote a book called The Creative Habit. As you can guess from the title, she argues that creativity is not a magical act of inspiration, it's the result of hard work and dedication. Even for Mozart, remember the movie Amadeus? Remember how it showed Mozart easily churning out one masterpiece after another while Salieri, his rival, is dying of envy. Well, Tharp worked on that movie and she says, hogwash, nonsense, there are no natural geniuses. Dedication is how Jackson Pollock got from point A to point B. Pollock was wildly in love with the idea of being an artist. He talked about art all the time and he did it all the time because he was so gung-ho. He got others to take him seriously and mentor him until he mastered all there was to master and began to produce startlingly original work. His board paintings, each completely unique, allow him to draw from his unconsciousness mind and convey a huge range of feelings. Several years ago, I was privileged to see a show of this painting at the Museum of the Modern Art in New York. I was stunned by the power and beauty of each work. Can anyone do anything? I don't really know. However, I think we can now agree that people can do a lot more than first meets the eye. The danger of price and positive label. If people have such a potential to achieve, how can they gain faith in their potential? How can we give them the confidence that they need to go for it? How about pricing their ability in order to convey that they have what it takes? In fact, more than 80% of parents told us it was necessary to price children's ability so as to foster their confidence and achievement. It makes a lot of sense, but then we began to worry. We thought about how people with a fixed mindset already focus too much on their ability. Is it high enough? Will it look good? Wouldn't praising people's ability focus them on it even more? Wouldn't it be telling them that that's what we value, and even worse, that we can read their deep, underlying ability from their performance? It's not that teaching them the fixed mindset. Adam Guettel has been called the crown princess and savior of musical theater. He is the grandson of Richard Rodgers, the man who wrote the music to such a classic as Oklahoma and Carousel. Gretel's mother guesses about her son's genius, as she does everyone else. The talent is there and it's a major. Reft a review in the New York Times. The question is whether this kind of prize encourages people. What's great about research is that you can ask this kind of question and then go to get the answers. So we conducted studies with hundreds of students, mostly early adolescents. We first gave each student a set of 10 fairly difficult problems from a non-verbal IQ test. They mostly did pretty well on this, and when they finished, we prized them. We praised some of the students for their ability. They were told, wow, you got say 8 right? That's really good score. You must be smart at this. They were in the Adam Cattle, so you are talented position. We praised other students for their effort. Wow, you could say 8 right. That's a really good score. You must have worked really hard. They were not made to feel that they had some special gift. They were prized for doing what it takes to succeed. Both groups were exactly equal to begin with, but right after the prize, they began to differ. As we feared, the ability prize pushed students right into the fixed mindset, and they showed all the signs of it too. When we gave them a choice, they rejected a challenging new task that they could learn from. They didn't want to do anything that could expose their flaw and call into question their talent. When Gretel was 13, he was all set to star in a Metropolitan Opera broadcast and TV movie of Amahel and the Night Visitors. He bowed out, saying that his voice had broken. I kind of faked my voice was changing. I didn't want to handle the pressure. In contrast, when students were prized for effort, 90% of them wanted to challenge new tasks again that they could learn from. Then we gave students some hard new problem which they didn't do so well on. The ability kids now thought were not smart after all. If success had meant they were intelligent, then less than success meant they were deficient. Gödel echoes this. In my family, to be good is to fail. To be very good is to fail. The only thing not the failure is to be great. The effort kids simply thought that difficult meant apply more effort or try new strategies. They didn't see it as a failure and they didn't think it reflected on their intellect. What about the students' enjoyment of the problem? After the success, everyone loved the problem, but after the difficult problems, the ability students said it was not fun anymore. It cannot be fun when you claim your fame, your special talent is in a jeopardy. Here is Adam Gretel. I wish I could just have fun and relax and not have the responsibility of that potential to be some kind of the great man. As with the kids in our study, the burden of talent was killing his enjoyment. The effort prize students still loved the problem, and many of them said that the hard problems were the most fun. We then look at the students' performance. After the experience with difficulty, the performance of the ability prize student plummeted even when we gave them some more of the easier problem. Losing faith in their ability. They were doing worse than when they started. The effort kids saw better and better performance. They had used the hard problem to sharpen their skills so that when they returned to the easier one, they were way ahead. Since this was a kind of test of IQ test, you might say that praising ability lowered the student IQs and that praising the effort raised them. Gretel was not thriving. He was riddled with the obsessive-compulsive tic and bitten, bleeding finger. He spent a minute with him, it takes only one, and a picture of the terror behind the tic starts to emerge, says an interviewer. Gretel has also fought serious, recurrent drug problem. Rather than empowering him, the gift has filled him with fear and doubt. Rather than fulfilling his talent, this brilliant composer has spent most of his life running from it. One thing is helpful. His recognition that he has his own life course to follow that is not dictated by other people and their view of his talent. One day he had a dream about his grandfather. I was walking him to an elevator. I asked him if I was any good. He said, rather kindly, you have your own voice. Is that voice finally emerging? For the scores of the light in the piazza, an intensely romantic musical. Gretel won the 2005 Tony Award. Will he take it as a prize for talent or praise it for effort? I hope it's the latter. There was one more finding in our study that was striking and depressing at the same time. We said to each student, we are going to go to other schools and I bet the kids in those schools would like to know about the problem. So we gave students a page to write out their thoughts, but we also left a space for them to write the scores they had received on the problems. Would you believe that almost 40% of the ability prize students lied about their scores and always in one direction in the fixed mindset? Imperfections are shameful, especially if you are not talented. Especially if you are talented, so they lied them away. What's so alarming is that we took ordinary children and made them into liars simply by telling them they were smart. Right after I wrote this paragraph, I met with a young man who tutors students for their college board exam. He had come to consult with me about one of his students. The student takes practice tests and then lies to him about her score. He is supposed to tutor her on what she does not know. But she cannot tell him the truth about what she doesn't know, and she is paying money for this. So telling children they're smart in the end made them feel dumber and act dumber, but claim they were smarter. I don't think this is what we are aiming for when we put positive label gifted, talented, brilliant on people. We don't mean to rob them of their zest for a challenge and their receipts for success, but that's the danger. Here is a letter from a man who would read some of my work. Dear Dr. Dweck, it was painful to read your chapter as I recognized myself therein. As a child, I was a member of the Gifted Child Society and continually prized for my intelligence. Now, after a lifetime of not living up to my potential. I am 49. I'm learning to apply myself to a task and also to see failure not as a sign of stupidity, but as a lack of experience and skill. Your chapter helped see myself in a new light, said Abrams. This is the danger of positive label. There are alternative and I will return to them later in the chapter on parents, teachers, and coaches. Negative labels and how they work. I was once a math whiz in high school. I got a 99 in algebra, a 99 in geometry, and a 99 in a trigonometry, and I was on the math team. I scored up there with the boys on the Air Force test of a visual spatial ability, which is why I got recruiting brochures from their Air Force for many years to come. Then I got a Mr. Hellman, a teacher who didn't believe girls could do math. My grades declined and I never took math again. I actually agreed with Mr. Hellman, but I didn't think it applied to me. Other girls couldn't do math. Mr. Hellman thought it applied to me too. And I succumbed. Everyone knows negative labels are bad. So you would think this would be a short section, but it is not a short section. Because psychologists are learning how negative labels harm achievement, no one knows about negative ability label like members of stereotyped group. For example, African Americans know about being stereotyped as a lower in intelligence, and women know about being stereotyped as a bad at math and science, but I'm not sure even they know how creepy these stereotypes are. Research by Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson shows that even checking a box to indicate your race or sex can trigger this stereotype in your mind and lower your test score. Almost anything that reminds you that you are black or a female before taking a test in a subject you are supposed to be bad at will lower your test score a lot. In many other studies, blacks are equal to whites in their performance and females are equal to males. When no stereotype is evoked, but just put more males in the room with a female before a math test and don't go to female score. This is why when stereotypes are evoked, they fill people's mind with distracting thoughts with secret worries about confirming the stereotype. People usually are not even aware of it, but they don't have enough mental power left to do their best on the test. This does not happen to everybody, however. It mainly happens to people who are in a fixed mindset. It's when people are thinking in the term of fixed traits that the stereotypes get to them. Negative stereotypes say, you and your group are permanently inferior. Only people in the fixed mindset resonates to this message. So, in the fixed mindset, both positive and negative label can mess with your mind. When you are given a positive label, you are afraid of losing it, and when you are hit with a negative label, you are afraid of deserving it. When people are in a growth mindset, the stereotype does not disturb their performance. The growth mindset takes the teeth out of the stereotype and makes people better able to fight back. They don't believe in the permanent inferiority, and if they are behind, well, they will work harder, seek help, and try to catch up. The growth mindset also makes people able to take what they can and what they need even from threatening environment. We asked African American students to write an essay for a competition. They were told that when they finish, their essays will be evaluated by Edward Caldwell III, a distinguished professor with an Ivy League pedigree. That is a representative of white establishment. Edward Caldwell feedback was quite critical but also helpful, and student reaction varied greatly. Those with a fixed mindset view it as a threat. As a threat, as an insult or an attack. They rejected Caldwell and his feedback. Here is what one student with a fixed mindset thought. He is mean, he doesn't grade right, or he is obviously biased. He doesn't like me. Said another, he is pompous as whole. It appears that he was searching for anything to discredit the work. And another, deflecting the feedback with blame, he doesn't understand the conciseness of my point. He thought it was book because it was impassioned when he read it. He dislikes creativity. None of them will learn anything from Edward Caldwell's feedback. The student with the growth mindset may also have viewed him as a dinosaur, but he was a dinosaur who could teach them something. Before the evaluation, he came across as arrogant and over-demanding. After the evaluation, fear seems to be the first word that comes to mind. It seems like a new challenge. He sounded like an arrogant, intimidating, and condescending man. What are you feeling about the evaluation? The evaluation was seemingly honest and specific. In this sense, the evaluation could be a stimulus to produce better work. He seems to be proud to the point of arrogance. The evaluation? He was intensely critical. His comments were helpful and clear. However, I feel I will learn much from him. The growth mindset allowed African American students to recruit Edward Caldwell III for their own goals. They were encouraged to get an education and, pompous as whole or not, they were going to get it. Do I belong here? Aside from hijacking people's abilities, stereotypes also do damage by making people feel they don't belong. Many minorities drop out of college and many women drop out of math and science because they just don't feel they fit in. To find out how this happens, we follow college women through their calculus course. This is often when students decide whether math or careers involving math are right for them. Over the semester, we ask the women to report their feeling about math and their sense of belonging in math. For example, when they thought about math, did they feel like a full-fledged member of the math community or did they feel like an outsider? Did they feel comfortable or did they feel anxious? Did they feel good or bad about their math skills? The women with the growth mindset, those who thought math ability could be improved, felt a fairly strong and stable sense of belonging, and they were able to maintain this even when they thought there was a lot of negative stereotyping going around. One student described in this way: in a math class, female students were told they were wrong when they were not. They were in fact doing things in novel ways. It was absurd and reflected poorly on the instructor not to see the students' good reasoning. It was all right because we were working in a group and we were able to give and receive support among us students. We discussed our interesting ideas among ourselves. The stereotyping was disturbing to them, as it should be, but they could still feel comfortable with themselves and confident about themselves in a math setting. They could fight back, but women with a fixed mindset as the semester wore on felt a shrinking sense of belonging, and the more they felt the prison of stereotyping in their class, the more their comfort with math withered. One student said that her sense of belonging fell because I was disrespected by the professor with his comment, "That was a good guess," whenever I made the correct answer in class. The stereotype of low ability was able to infect them, to define them, and take away their comfort and confidence. I'm not saying it's their fault by any means. Prejudice is a deeply ingrained societal problem, and I do not want to blame the victims of it. I'm simply saying that a growth mindset helps people to see prejudice for what it is, someone else's view of them, and to confirm it with their confidence and abilities intact. Trusting people's opinions. Many females have problem not only with stereotypes but with other people's opinions of them in general. They trust them too much. One day, I went into a drugstore in Hawaii to buy dental floss and deodorant. And after fetching my items, I went to wait in line. There were two women together in front of me waiting to pay. Since I am an incurable time stuffer, at some point I decided to get my money ready for when my turn came, so I walked up, put the items way on the side of the counter, and started to gather up the bills that were strewn throughout my purse. The two women went berserk. I explained that in no way was I trying to cut in front of them. I was just preparing for when my turn came. I thought the matter was resolved. But when I left the store, they were waiting for me. They got in my face and yelled, "You are a bad-mannered person." My husband, who had seen the whole thing from the beginning to end, though they were nuts, but they had a strange and disturbing effect on me, and I had a hard time shaking off their verdict. This vulnerability afflicts many of the most able, high achieving females. Why should this be? When they are little, these girls are often so perfect and they'll delight in everyone's telling them so. They are so well behaved, they are so cute, they are so helpful, and they are so precocious. Girls learn to trust people's estimates of them. Gee, everyone's so nice to me. If they criticize me, it must be true. Even females at the top university in the country say that other people's opinion are a good way to know their abilities. Boys are constantly being scolded and punished. When we observed in grade school classroom, we saw that boys got 8 times more criticism than girls for their conduct. Boys are also constantly calling each other slobs and morons. The evaluation lose a lot of their power. A male friend once called me a slob. He was over to dinner at my house, and while we were eating, I dripped some food on my blouse. That's because you are such a slob, he said. I was shocked. It was when I realized no one had even ever said anything like that to me. Men say it to each other all the time. It may not be a kind thing to say, even in jest, but it certainly makes them think twice before buying into other people's evaluations. Even when women reach the pinnacle of success, other people's attitude can get them. Frances Conley is one of the most eminent neurosurgeons in the world. In fact, she was the first woman ever given tenure in neurosurgery at an American medical school. Yet careless comment from male colleges, even assistants, could fill her with a soft job. One day during surgery, a man condescendingly called her honey instead of returning the compliment. She questions herself. Is a honey? She wondered. Is really this honey good enough and talented enough to be doing this operation? The fixed mindset plus stereotyping plus women's trust in other people's assessment of them. All of this contribute to the gender gap in math and science. The gap is painfully evident in the world of high tech. Julie Ling, a budding Taichi, was already writing computer code when she was in junior high school. Her father and two brothers worked in technology and she loved it too. Then her computer program teacher criticized her. She had written a computer program and the program ran just fine, but he didn't like a shortcut she had taken. Her interest evaporated. Instead, she went on to study recreation and public relations. Math and science need to be made more hospitable places for women, and women need all the growth mindset they can get to take the rightful place in this field when things go right. But let's look at the times the process goes right. The Polgar family has produced 3 of the most successful female chess players ever. How? Says Susan, one of the 3. My father believed that innate talent is nothing, that success is 99% hard work. I agree with him. The youngest daughter, Judith, is now considered the best women chess player of all the time. She was not the one with the most talent, Susan reports. Judith was a slow starter, but very hardworking. A colleague of mine has 2 daughters who are math whizzes. One is a graduate student in math at a top university. The other was the first girl to rank #1 in the country on an elite math test. Won a nationwide math contest and is now a neuroscience major at the top university. What's their secret? Is it passed down in the genes? I believe it's a passed down in the mindset. It's the most growth mindset family I have ever seen. In fact, the father applied the growth mindset to everything. I will never forget the conversation we had some years ago. I was single at the time, and he asked me what my plan was for finding a partner. He was aghast when I said I didn't have a plan. You wouldn't expect your work to get done by itself, he said. Why is this any different? It was inconceivable to him that you could have a goal and not take steps to make it happen. In short, with the growth mindset lets people, even those who are with targets of negative level, use and develop their minds fully. Their heads are not filled with limiting thought, a fragile sense of belonging, and a belief that other people can define them. Grow your mindset. Think about your hero. Do you think of this person as someone with extraordinary ability who achieved with a little effort? Now, go find out the truth. Find out the tremendous effort that went into their accomplishment and admire them more. Think of times other people outdid you and you just assumed they were smarter or more talented. Now consider the idea that they just used better strategies, taught themselves more, practiced harder, and worked their way through the obstacle, and you can do that too if you want to. Are there situations where you get stupid, where you disengage, or you're intelligent? Next time you are in one of those situations, get yourself into a growth mindset and think about learning and improvement, not judgment, and hook it back up. Do you label your kids? This one is the artist and that one is the scientist. Next time, remember that you're not helping them, even though you may be praising them. Remember our study where praising kids' ability lowered their IQ scores. Find a growth mindset way to compliment them. More than half of our society belongs to a negatively stereotyped group. First you have all the women and then you have all the other group who are not supposed to be good at something or other. Give them the gift of the growth mindset, create an environment that teaches the growth mindset to the adults and children in your life, especially the ones who are targets of negative stereotypes. Even when the negative label comes along, they will remain in charge of their learning. Chapter 4: Sports. The mindset of a champion. In sport, everybody will live in talent, even or especially the expert. In fact, sports is where the idea of a natural comes from, someone who looks like an athlete, moves like an athlete, and is an athlete, all without trying. So great is the belief in natural talent that many scouts and coaches search only for natural and then teams will view with each other to pay exorbitant amount to recruit them. Billy Bean was a natural. Everyone agreed he was the next Babe Ruth. But Billy Bean lacked one thing, the mindset of a champion. As Michael Lewis tells us in the Moneyball, by the time Bean was a sophomore in high school, he was the high scorer on the basketball team, the quarterback of the football team, and the best hitter on the baseball team. Batting 500 in one of the toughest leagues in the country, his talent was really enough. But the minute things went wrong, Bean searched for something to break. It was not merely that he didn't like to fail, it was as if he didn't know how to fail. As he moved up in baseball from the minor league to the majors, things got worse and worse. Each at-bat became a nightmare, another opportunity for humiliations, and with every bad at-bat he went to pieces, as one scout said. Billy was of the opinion that he should never make an out. Sound familiar? Did Bean try to fix his problem in constructive way? No, of course not. Because this is a story of the fixed mindset. Natural talent should not need effort. Effort is for the others and the less in out. Natural talent does not ask for help. It is an admission of weakness. In short, the natural does not analyze his deficiency and coach of or practice them away. The very idea of deficiency is terrifying. Being so imbued with a fixed mindset, Bean was trapped by his huge talent. Bean, the player, never recovered from the fixed mindset, but Bean, the incredibly successful Major League executive, did. How did this happen? There was another player who lived and played side by side with Bean in the minors and in the majors, Lenny Dykstra. Dykstra did not have a fraction of Bean's physical endowment or natural ability, but Bean watched him in awe. As Bean later described, he had no concept of failure, and I was the opposite. Bean continues, I started to get the sense of what a baseball player was, and I could see it was not me, it was Lenny. As you watch, listen, and mulled it over, it dawned on Bean that mindset was more important than talent. And not long after that, as a part of a group that pioneered a radically new approach to scouting and managing, he began to believe that scoring runs, the whole point of baseball, was much more about the process than about the talent. The idea of the natural. Now you see it, now you don't. Physical endowment is not like intellectual endowment. It's visible, Size, build, agility are all visible. Practice and training are also invisible, and they produce visible results. You would think that this would dispel the myth of natural. You could see Muskie Books at 5'3" playing NBA basketball and Doug Flutie, the small quarterback who played for the New England Patriots and the San Diego Chargers. Could you see Pete Gray, with one-arm baseball player who made it to the major league? Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers of all time, who was completely lacking in a grace. Glenn Cunningham, the great runner who had badly burnt and damaged legs. Larry Bird and his lack of swiftness. You can see the small of graceless of even disabled ones who make it. And the god-like specimen who don't. Shouldn't this tell people something? Boxing experts relied on physical measurement and called the tails of the tape to identify naturals. They include the measurements of the fighter's waist, reach, chest expansion, and weight. Muhammad Ali felt this measurement. He was not unnatural. He had a great speed, but he didn't have the physique of a great fighter. He didn't have the strength. He didn't have the classical moves. In fact, he boxed all round. He didn't block punch with his arm and elbow. He punched in release like an amateur. He kept his jaw exposed. He pulled back his torso to evade the impact of oncoming punches, which just Torres said was like someone in the middle of a train track trying to avoid being hit by an oncoming train, not by moving to one or to other side of the track, but by running backwards. Sonny Linson, Ali's adversary, was unnatural. He had it all: the size, the strength, the experience. His power was legendary, and it was unimaginable that Ali could beat Sonny Liston. The match-up was so ludicrous that the arena was only half full for the fight. But aside from his quickness, Ali's brilliance was his mind, his brains, and not his brawn. He sized up his opponent and went for his mental jugular. Not only did he study Linson's fighting style, but he closely observed what kind of person Liston was out of the ring. I read everything I could where he had been interviewed. I talked with the people who had been around him and or had talked with him. I would lay in bed and put all the things together and think about them again, and try to get a picture of how his mind worked, and then he turned it against him. Why did Ali appear to go crazy before each fight? Because Torres says he knew that a knockout punch is the one they do not see coming. Ali said Liston had to believe that I was crazy, that I was capable of doing anything. He couldn't see nothing to me at all but mouth, and that's all I wanted him to see. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, your hands cannot hit, and what your eyes cannot see. Ali's victory over Liston is boxing's history. A famous boxing manager reflects on Ali. He was a paradox. His physical performance in the ring were absolutely wrong, yet his brain was always in perfect working condition. He showed us all he could knew that all victories come from here. Hitting his forehead with his index finger, then he raised a pair of fists and saying, "Not from here." This didn't change people's mind about physical endowment, and now we just look back at Ali now with our hindsight and see the body of the great boxer. It was a gravity that his mind was so sharp and that he made up amusing poems, but we still think his greatness resides in his physique, and we don't understand how the expert failed to see the greatness right from the start. Michael Jordan was not a natural either. He was the hardest working athlete perhaps in the history of the sport. It is well known that Michael Jordan was cut from the high school varsity team. We laugh at the coach who cut him. He was not recruited by the college. He wanted to play for North Carolina State. Well, were not they foolish? He was not drafted by the first two NBA teams that could have chosen him. What a blooper, because now we know he was the greatest basketball player ever, and we think it should have been obvious from the start. When we look at him, we see Michael Jordan, but at the point, he was only Michael Jordan. When Jordan was cut from the varsity team, he was devastated. His mother said, "I told him to go back and discipline himself." Boy, did he listen. He used to leave the house at 6 in the morning and go to practice before school at the University of North Carolina. He constantly worked on his weaknesses, his defensive game, and his ball handling and shooting. The coach was taken aback by his willingness to work harder than anyone else. Once, after the team lost the last game of the season, Jordan went and practiced his shot for hours, and he was preparing for the next year. Even at the height of his success and fame, after he made himself into an athletic genius, his Doge practice remained legendary. Former Bulls assistant coach John Bach called him a genius who constantly wants to upgrade his genius. For Jordan, success stems from the mind. The mental toughness and the heart are a lot stronger than some of the physical advantages you might have. I have always said that I have always believed that, but other people don't. They look at Michael Jordan and they see the physical perfection that led inevitably to his greatness. Sport IQ. You would think the sport would have to see the relations between practice and improvement and between the mind and performance and stop harping so much on innate physical talent, yet it's almost as if they refuse to see. Perhaps it's because, as Malcolm Gladwell suggests, people prize natural endowment over earned ability as much as our culture talk about individual effort and self-improvement. Deep down, he argues, we refer the natural. We'd like to think of our champions and idols as superheroes who were born different from us. We don't like to think of them as relatively ordinary people who made themselves extraordinary. Why not? To me, that is so much more amazing. Even when experts are willing to recognize the role of the mind, they continue to insist that it's all innate. This really hit me when I came upon an article about Marshall Faulk, the great running back for the St. Louis Rams football team. Faulk had thus become the first player to gain a combined 2,000 rushing and receiving yards in 4 consecutive seasons. Incredible, how does he do it? As Faulk tells it, he spent years and years watching football in high school. He even got a job as a ballpark vendor, which he hated it. In order to watch pro football as he watched, he was always asking the questions, why? Why are we running this play? Why are we attacking in this way? Why are they doing that? Why are they doing this? And that questions focuses. Basically got me involved in football in a more in-depth way. As a pro, he never stopped asking why and probing deeper into the workings of the game. Clearly, Falk himself sees his skill as the product of insatiable curiosity and study. How do players and coaches see it? As a gift? Marshall has the highest football IQ of any position player I have ever played with. Says a veteran teammate. Other teammates describe his ability to recognize defensive alignment flawlessly as a savant's gift. In awe of his array of skill, one coach explained, it takes every innate football intelligence to do all that. Character. But aren't there some natural athlete who really seems to have it from the start? Yes, and it was for Billy Bean and John McCurry. Sometimes it's a curse. With all the prize for their talent and with how little they have needed to work or stretch themselves, they can easily fall into the fixed mindset. Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, 1978 Olympic gold medalist in decathlon, says, if I was not dyslexic, I probably wouldn't have won the games. If I had been a better reader, then that would have come easily, support would have come easily, and I never would have realized that the way you get ahead in life is hard work. The naturals carried away with their superiority, don't learn how to work hard or how to cope with the setback. This is the story of Pedro Martinez, the brilliant pitcher, then went the Boston Red Sox, who self-destructed when they needed him most. But it's an even larger story too, a story about character. Among the things they remember, what the Yankees had done for New York years before. It was October 2001, and New Yorkers had to sleep through September 11. I was there, and we were devastated. We needed some hope. The city needed the Yankees to go for the World Series. But the Yankees had lived through it too. They were injured and exhausted. There seems to have nothing left. I don't know where They got it form, but they dug down deep and they polished off one team and after another. Each win bringing us a little bit back to life, each one giving us a little more hope for the future, fueled by our need. They become an American League East champ, then the American League champs, and then they were in the World Series, where they made a valiant run and almost pulled it off. Everyone hates the Yankees. It's the team the whole country roots against. I grew up hating the Yankees too, but after that I had to love them. This is what the sports writers mean by character. Character, the sports writers said. They know it when they see it. It's the ability to dig down and find the strange, even when things are going against you. The very next day, Pedro Martinez, the dazzling but over-pampered Boston pitcher, showed up what a character means by showing what it is not, but no one could have wanted him American League Championship more than the Boston Red Sox. They hadn't won a World Series in 85 years ever since the curse of the Bambino. That is, ever since Sox owner Harry Freese sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees for money to finance the Broadway show. It was bad enough that he was selling the best left-handed pitcher in baseball, but he was selling him to the despised enemy. The Yankees went to dominate the basketball, winning it seems endless World Series. Meanwhile, Boston made it to 4 World Series and several playoffs, but they always lost. Staying on top. Character is what allow you to reach the top and stay there. The real strawberry. Mike Tyson and Martina Hingis reached the top, but they didn't stay there. It's not that because they had all kind of personal problem and injuries, yes, but so have many other champions. Ben Hogan was hit by a bus and was physically destroyed, but he made it back to the top. I believe ability can get you to the top, say Coach John Wooden, but it takes character to keep you there. It's so easy to begin thinking you can just turn it on automatically without proper preparation. It takes real character to keep working as hard or even harder once you are there. When you read about an athlete or team that wins over and over and over, remind yourself more than ability, they have character. Let's take an even deeper look at what character means and how the growth mindset creates it. Stuart Biddle and his colleges measure adolescents and the young adult mindset about athletic ability. Those with fixed mindset were the people who believed that you have a certain level of ability in sport and you cannot really do much to change that level. To be good at sport, you need to be naturally gifted. In contrast, the people with the growth mindset agree that how good you are at sport will always improve if you work harder at all. To be successful in sport, you need to learn technique and skill and practice them regularly. Those with the growth mindset were the ones who showed the most character or heart. They were the ones who had the minds of champion. What do I mean? Let's look at the finding from these sport researchers and see what is success. Finding 1. Those with the growth mindset found success in doing their best in learning and improving, and is exactly what we find in the champions. For me, the joy of athletics has never resided in winning. Jackie Joyner Kersey tells us, I derive just as much happiness from the process as from the result. I don't mind losing as long as I see improvement or I feel I have done as well as I possibly could. If I lose, I just go back to the track and work some more. This idea that personal success when you work your hardest to become your best was central to the John Wooden's life. In fact, he says there were many games that gave me as much pleasure as any of the 10 national championship games we won, simply because we prepared fully and played near our highest level of ability. Tiger Woods and Mia Hamm are two of the fiercest competitors who ever lived. They love to win, but what counted most for them is the effort they made, even when they didn't win. They could be proud of that. McEnroe and the Bean could not. Tiger is a hugely ambitious man. He wants to be the best, even the best ever. But the best me, that's a little more important. Mia Hamm tells us, after every game or practice, if you walk off the field knowing that you gave everything you had, you will always be a winner. Why did the country fall in love with her team? They saw that we truly love what we do and that we give everything we had to each other and do each game. For those with a fixed mindset, success is about establishing their superiority, pure and simple, being that somebody who is worthier than the nobodies. There was a time, I will admit it, McIntyre says, when my head was so big it could barely fit through the door. Where is the talk about effort and personal test? There is none. Some people do not want to rehearse, they just want to perform. Other people want to practice 100 times first. I'm in the former group. Remember, in the fixed mindset, effort is not a cause for the pride. It is something that casts doubt on your talent. What is failure? Finding two. Those with the growth mindset found setback motivating. They are informative. They are wake-up call. Only once did Michael Jordan try to coast. It was the year he returned the Bulls after his stint in baseball, and he learned his lesson. The Bulls were eliminated in the playoff. You cannot leave and think you can come back and dominate this game. I will physically and mentally prepare from now on. Truer words are rarely spoken. The Bulls with won the NBA title the next 3 years. Michael Jordan embraced his failure. In fact, in one of the favorite ads for Nike, he says, I have missed more than 9,000 shots. I have lost almost 300 games 26 times, and I have been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. You can be sure that each time he went back and practiced the shot 100 times. Here is how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the great basketball player, reacted when college basketball outlawed his signature shot, the dunk. Many thought that would stop his ascent to greatness. Instead, he worked twice as hard on developing other shots. His bank shot off the glass, his sky hook, and his turnaround jumper. He had absorbed the growth mindset from Coach Wooden and put it to good use. In the fixed mindset setback level U, John McEnroe could never stand the thought of losing. Even worse was the thought of losing to someone who was a friend or relative that would make him less special. For example, he hopes desperately for his best friend Peter to lose in the final at Maui after Peter had beaten him in an earlier round. He wanted it so badly he couldn't watch the match. Another time he played his brother Patrick in the finals in Chicago and said to himself, God, if I lose to Patrick, that's it. I'm jumping off the sheer tower. Here is how failure motivated Sergio Garcia, another golden boy with mindset issues. Garcia had taken golf world by storm with his great shot and his charming, boyish ways. He seemed like a younger Tiger, but when his performance took a dive, so did his charm. He fired KD after KD, blaming them for everything that went wrong. We once blamed his shoe when he slipped and missed a shot. To punish the shoe, he threw it and kicked it. Unfortunately, he almost hit an official. These are the ingenious remedies for failure in the fixed mindset. Taking charge of success. Finding three. People with a growth mindset in sport took change in the process that brings success and that maintain it. How come Michael Jordan's skill didn't seem to decline with the age? He did lose some stamina and agility with age, but to compensate, he worked even harder on conditioning and on his move, like the turnaround jump shot and his celebrated follow-away jumper. He came into the league as a slam dunker and he left as the most complete player ever to grace the game. Woods too took charge the process. Golf is like a wayward lover. When you think you have conquered her, she will certainly desert you. Butch Harmon, the renowned coach, says the golf swing is just about the farthest thing from a perfectible discipline in athletics. The most reliable swings are only relatively repeatable. They never stop being work in progress. That's why even the biggest golf star wins only a fractions of the time and may not win for a long period of time, and that's also why taking charge of the process is so crucial. With this in mind, Tiger's dad makes sure to teach him how to manage his attention and his cursory strategy. Mr. Woods would make loud noises or throw things just a little Tiger was about to swing. This helped him become less distractible. When Tiger was 3 years old, his dad was already teaching him to think about course management after Tiger drove the ball behind a big clump of trees. Mr. Woods asked the toddler that his plan was Woods carried on what his dad started by taking control of all part of his game. He experimented constantly with what worked and what didn't, but he also had a long-term plan that guided him. I know my game. I know what I want to achieve. I know how to get there. Like Michael Jordan, Woods managed his motivation. He did this by making his practice into fun. I love working on shots. What does it mean to be a star? Does a star have less responsibility to the team than other players? Is it just their role to be great and win the games? Or does the star have more responsibility than others? What does Michael Jordan think? In our society, sometimes it's hard to come to grips with filling a role instead of trying to be a superstar, says Jordan. A superstar's talent can win games, but it's teamwork that wins championships. Coach John Wooden claims he was tactically and strategically average. So how did he win 10 national championships? One of the main reasons he tells us is because he was good at getting players to fill roles as part of a team. I believe, for example, I could have made Kareem Abdul-Jabbar the greatest rock scorer in college history. I could have done that by developing the team around the ability of his. Would we have won 3 national championships while he was at UCLA? Never. In the fixed mindset, athletes want to validate their talent. This means acting like a superstar, not just a team member. But as with Pedro Martinez, this mindset works against the important victories they want to achieve. A telling tale is the story of Patrick Ewing, who could have been a basketball champion. The year Ewing was a draft pick, by far the most exciting pick of the year. The Knicks won the lottery and to their joy got to select Ewing for their team. They now had the Twin Towers, the 7-foot Ewing and the 7-foot Bill Cartwright, their high-scoring center. They had a chance to do it all. They just needed Ewing to be the power forward. He was not happy with that. The center is the star position, and maybe he was not sure he could hit this outside shot that a power forward has to hit. What if had really given his all to learn that position? Instead, Cartwright was sent to the Bulls, and Ewing's Knicks never won a championship. Then there is a tale of the football player Shawn Johnson, another immensely talented player who was devoted to validating his own greatness. When asked before a game how he compared to a star player on the opposing team, he replied, "You are trying to compare a flashlight to a star. Flashlights only last so long. A star is in the sky forever." Was he a team player? I am a team player, but I am an individual first. I have to be the number one guy with the football, not number 2 or number 3. If I'm not the number one guy, I'm not good for you. I can really help you. What does that mean? For his definition of team player, Johnson was traded by the Jets, and after that, deactivated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have noticed an interesting thing. When some stars players are interviewed after a game, they tell me they are part of the team and they think of themselves that way. When others are interviewed, they say I, and they refer to their teammates as something apart from themselves, as people who are privileged to participate in their greatness. Every sport is a team sport. You know, just about every sport is in some sense a team sport. No one does it alone. Even in individual sports like a tennis or golf, great athletes have a team, coaches, trainer, caddies, manager, mentors. This really hit me when I read about Diana Nyad, the woman who holds the world record for open water swimming. What could be more of a lone sport than swimming? Alright, maybe you need a little rowboat to follow you and make sure you are okay. When Nyad hatched her plan, the open water swimming record for both men and women was 60 miles. She wanted to swim 100 after one of our duo's training. She was ready, but with her went a team of guides, drivers looking for NASA experts for guidance on nutrition and endurance. She needed 1100 calories per hour and she lost 29 pounds on the trip. And trainers who talked her through uncontrollable shivers, nausea, hallucination, and despair. Her now record was 102.5 miles. It was her name in the record books, but it took 51 other people to do it. Hearing the mindsets. You can already hear the mindset in young athlete. Listen for them. It's 2004. Isis Dalis is a college basketball star, a 6'5" forward for the Duke University women's basketball. She has a picture of her father, James Quick Dalis, taped to her locker as the motivator, but the picture is not a tribute, says sport writer Viv Bernstein. It is a reminder of all Tilly's hopes she will never be. Quick Dillis was a contender in the 1980s. In 81, he boxed for the world heavyweight title. In 85, he was in the movie of The Color Purple. And in 86, he was the first boxer to go the distance with Mike Tyson, but he never made it to the top. It is Dillis who is a senior says, "This is the year to win a national championship. I just feel like I would be such a failure. I feel like I'm regressing back and I'm going to end up like my dad, and nobody." Oh, it's the somebody nobody syndrome. If I win, I will be somebody. If I lose, I will be nobody. Tilly's anger at her father may be justified. He abandoned her as a child, but this thinking is getting in her way. Perhaps nobody else has the combination of size, skill, quickness, and vision in the women's college game. Yet few world rate Tillis ahead of the top two players in the country. Connecticut's Diana Taurasi and Bird Tillis' performance often failed to match her ability. She has stated that people have high expectations for her and want her to play better. "I feel like I have to come out and have a triple-double, dunk the ball over the head of 360, and maybe people will be like, oh, she's not that bad." I don't think people want to deposit impossible. I think they just want to see her use her wonderful talent to the utmost. I think they want her to develop the skills she needs to reach her goals. Worrying about being a nobody is not the mindset that motivates and sustains champions. Some bodies are not determined by whether they won or lost. Some bodies are people who go for it with all they have. If you go for it with all you have, it's just not just in the game, but in practice too. You will already be a somebody. Here is the other mindset. It's a 6'3" Candace Parker, then a 70-year-old senior at Naperville Central High near Chicago, who is going to tennis to play for the Lady Vols and the great coach Pat Summit. Several years before, when he was a coach of her team, her dad lost his cool with her during a tournament game. She was not going for the rebound. She was shooting lazy shot from the outside instead of using her height near the basket, and she was not exerting herself on defense. "Now let's go out and try harder." So what happened? She went out and scored 20 points in the second half and had 10 rebounds. They blew the other team away. "He lit a fire under me, and I knew he was right." Candace light the same fire under herself now. Rather than being content to be a star, she looked to improve all the time. When she returned from knee surgery, she knew what she needed to work on: her timing, nerves, and win. When her three-point shot went bad, she asked her father to come to the gym to work on it with her, whether it in basketball or everyday life. She says nothing is promised. Only weeks later, the mindset prophecies were already coming true. Two things happened. One, sadly, is that Tilly's team was knocked out of the championship. The other was that Candace Parker became the first woman ever to win the basketball dunking championship against 5 men. Character, heart, the mind of the champion. It's what makes the great athlete, and it's what comes from the growth mindset with its focus on the self-development, self-motivation, and responsibility. Even though the finest athletes are wildly competitive and want to be the best, greatness does not come from the ego of the fixed mindset with its somebody nobody syndrome. Many athletes with a fixed mindset may have been natural, but you know what? As John Wooden says, we cannot remember most of them. Grow your mindset. Are there sports you always assume you are bad at? Well, maybe you are, but then maybe you are not. It's not something you can know until you have put in a lot of effort. Some of the world's best athletes didn't start out being that hot. If you have a passion for a sport, put in the effort and see. Sometimes being exceptionally endowed is a curse. This athlete may stay in the fixed mindset and not cope well with adversity. Is there a sport that came easily to you? Until you hit a wall, try on the growth mindset and go for it again. Character is an important concept in the sport world, and it comes out of the growth mindset. Think about times you have needed to reach deep down inside in difficult sport majors. Think about the growth mindset champions from this chapter and how they do it. What could you do next time to make sure you are in a growth mindset in a pinch? Athlete with a growth mindset. Find success in learning and improving, not just winning. The more you can do this, the more a rewarding sport will be for you and for those who play them with you. Chapter 5: Business, Mindset, and Leadership. Enron and the Talent Mindset. In 2001 came the announcement that shocked the corporate world. Enron, the corporate poster child, the company of the future, had gone belly up. What happened? How did such a spectacular promise turn into such a spectacular disaster? Was it incompetence? Was it corruption? It was mindset. According to Malcolm Gladwell, writing in the New Yorker, American corporations have become obsessed with talent. Indeed, the gurus at McKinsey & Company, the premier management consulting firm in the country, were insisting that corporate success today requires the talent mindset. Just as there are natural in sport, they maintain they are natural in business. Just as sport teams write you check to sign outside talent, so too should corporations bear no expense in recruiting talent, for this is the secret weapon, the key to beating the competition. As Gladwell writes, this talent mindset is the new orthodoxy of American management. It created a blueprint for the Enron culture and showed the seeds of its demise. Enron required big talent, mostly people with fancy degree, which is not in itself so bad. It paid them big money, which is not that terrible, but by putting complete faith in talent, Enron did a fatal thing. It created a culture that worshipped talent, thereby forcing its employees to look and act extraordinarily talented. Basically, it forced them into the fixed mindset, and we know a lot about that. We know from our studies that people with a fixed mindset do not admit and correct their deficiencies. Remember the study where we interviewed students from the University of Hong Kong, where everything is in English? Students with a fixed mindset were so worried about appearing deficient that they refused to take a course that would improve their English. They did not live in a physiological world where they could take this risk. And remember how we put students into a fixed mindset by prizing their intelligence, much as Enron had done with its star employee. Later, after some hard problem, we asked the student to write a letter to someone in another school describing their experience in our study. When we read their letter, we were shocked. Almost 40% of them had lied about their scores, always in the upward direction. The fixed mindset had made a flaw intolerable. Gladwell concludes that when people live in an environment that esteems them for their innate talent, they have grave difficulty when their image is threatened. They will not take the remedial course, they will not stand up to investor and the public and admit that they were wrong. They would sooner lie. Obviously, a company that cannot self-correct cannot thrive. If Enron was done in by its fixed mindset, does it follow that companies that thrive have a growth mindset? Let's see. Organizations that grow. Jim Collins set out to discover what made some companies move from being good to be great. What was it that allowed them to make that leap to greatness and stay there, while other comparable companies just held steady at good? To answer this question, he and his research team embarked on a 5-year study. They selected 11 companies whose stock return had skyrocketed relative to other companies in their industry, and who had maintained an edge for at least 15 years. They matched each company to another one in the same industry that had similar resources but did not make the leap. He also studied a third group of companies, ones that had made a leap from good to great but did not sustain it. What distinguished the thriving company from the others? There were several important factors, as Collins reported in his book, Good to Great, but one that was absolutely key was the type of leader who in every case led the company into greatness. These were not the larger-than-life, charismatic types who oozed ego and self-proclaimed talent. They were self-effacing people who constantly asked questions and had the ability to confront the most brutal answer, that is, to look failure in the face, even their own, while maintaining faith and they would succeed in the end. Does this sound familiar? Collins wondered why his effective leaders have these particular qualities and why these qualities go together the way they do and how these leaders come to acquire them. But we know they have the growth mindset, they believe in human development, and these are the hallmark. They are not constantly trying to prove they are better than others. For example, they don't highlight the pecking order with themselves at the top. They don't claim credit for other people's contribution, and they don't undermine others to feel powerful. Instead, they are constantly trying to improve. They surround themselves with the most able people they can find. They look squarely at their own mistakes and deficiency, and they ask friendly what skills they and the company will need in the future. And because of this, they can move forward with a confidence that's grounded in fact, not built on fantasies about their talent. Collins reported that Alan Wurtzel, the CEO of the giant electronic chain Circuit City, held debates in his boardroom. Rather than simply trying to impress his board of directors, he used them to learn with his executive team as well. He questioned, debated, brooded until he slowly gained a clearer picture of where the company was and where it needed to go. They used to call me the prosecutor because I would hone in on questions. Wurtzel told Colin, "You know, like a bulldog, I wouldn't let go until I'd understood. Why? Wurtzel considered himself a plough horse, a hard-working, nonsense, normal kind of guy, but he took a company that was close to bankruptcy and over the next 15 years turned it into one that delivered the highest total return to its stockholder of any firm on the New York Stock Exchange." A study of mindset and management decisions. Robert Albert Bandura did a fascinating study with graduate students in business, many of whom had management experience in their study. They created Enron type managers and Wurtzel type manager by putting people into different mindsets. Wood and Bandura gave this budding business leader a complex management task in which they had to run a simulated organization, a furniture company, and this computerized task. They had to place the employee in the right jobs and decide how best to guide and motivate this worker to discover the best way. They had to keep revising their decision based on the feedback they got about employee productivity. The researchers divided the business students into two groups. One group was given a fixed mindset. They were taught that the task measured their basic underlying capabilities. The higher their capacity, the better their performance. The other group was given a growth mindset. They were told that management skills were developed through practice and that tasks would give them an opportunity to cultivate the skills. The task was hard because students were given high production standard to meet, and especially in their early attempt, they fell short. And as at Enron, those with fixed mindset did not profit from their mistakes, but those with a growth mindset kept on learning, not worry about measuring or protecting their fixed ability. They looked directly at their mistakes, used the feedback, and altered their strategies accordingly. They became better and better at understanding how to deploy and motivate their workers, and their productivity kept pace. In fact, they ended up way more productive than those with the fixed mindset. What's more, throughout this rather grueling task, they maintained a healthy sense of confidence. They operated like Alan Wurtzel. Chapter 6: Relationship, Mindsets, in Love or Not. What was that about the course of true love never running smooth? Well, the course to true love is not so smooth either. The path is often strewn with a disappointment and heartbreaks. Some people let these experiences scar them and prevent them from forming satisfying relationship in the future. Others are able to heal and move on. What separates them? To find out, we recruited more than 100 people and asked them to tell us about the terrible rejections. When I first got to New York, I was incredibly lonely. I didn't know a soul and I totally felt like I didn't belong here. After about a year of misery, I met Jack. It's almost an understatement to say that we clicked instantly. We felt like we had known each other forever. It was not long before we were living together and doing everything together. I thought I would spend my whole life with him, and he said he felt the same way. 2 really happy years passed. The one day I came home and found a note. He said he had to leave. Don't try to find him. He didn't even sign it, love. I never heard from him again. Sometimes when the phone rings, I still think maybe it's him. We heard a variation of the story over and over again. People with both mindsets told stories like this. Almost everyone at one time or another had been in love and had been hurt. What differed dramatically was how they dealt with it. After they told their stories, we asked them to follow up question. What did this mean to you? How did you handle it? And what were you hoping for? When people had a fixed mindset, they felt judged and labeled by the rejection, permanently labeled. It was as though a verdict had been handed down and branded on their foreheads unlovable, and they lashed out because the fixed mindset gave them no receipt for healing their wound, and all they could do was hope to warn the person who inflicted it. Lydia, the woman in the story above, told us that she had lasting, intense feeling of bitterness. I would get back at him, hurt him any way I could if I got a change. He deserved it. In fact, for people with a fixed mindset, their number one goal came through loud and clear: revenge. As one man put it, she took my word with her when she left. Not a day goes by I don't think about how to make her pay. During that study, I asked one of my fixed mindset friends about her divorce. I will never forget what she said. If I had to choose between me happy and him being miserable, I would definitely want him to be miserable. It had to be a person with a fixed mindset who coined the phrase revenge is sweet. The idea that with revenge comes from redemption, because people with a growth mindset have only those days for it. The stories they told were every bit as wrenching, but their reaction couldn't have been more different. For them, it was about understanding, forgiving, and moving on. Although they were often deeply hurt by what happened, they wanted to learn from it. That relationship and how it ended really taught me the importance of communicating. I used to think love conquers all, but now I know it needs a lot of help. This same man went on to say, I also learned something about who is right for me. I guess every relationship teaches you more about who is right for you. There is a French expression, tout comprendre qu'est tout pardonner. To understand all is to forgive all. Of course, this can be carried too far, but it's a good place to start. For people with a growth mindset, the number one goal was forgiveness. As one woman said, I'm not saint, but I knew for my own peace of mind that I had to forget and forget. He hurt me, but I had a whole life waiting for me, and I was mindsets falling in love. So far, having a fixed mindset has meant believing your personal traits are fixed. But in relationship, two more things enter the picture: your partner and the relationship itself. Now you can have a fixed mindset about three things. You can believe that your qualities are fixed, your partner qualities are fixed, and the relationship qualities are fixed. That it's inherently good or bad, meant to be or not meant to be. No, all of these things are up for judgment. The growth mindset says all of these things can be developed. All you, your partner, and the relationship are capable of growth and change. In the fixed mindset, the ideal is instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility, like it was meant to be. Like riding off into the sunset, like they lived happily ever after. Many people want to feel their relationship special and not just some change or occurrence. This seems okay, so what's the problem with the fixed mindsets? There are two. One, if you have to work at it, it was not meant to be. One problem is that people with the fixed mindset expect everything good to happen automatically. It's not that partner will work to help each other solve the problem or gain skills. It's that this will magically occur through their love, short of the way it happened to Sleeping Beauty, whose coma was cured by her princess kiss, or the Cinderella, whose miserable life was suddenly transformed by her prince. Charlene's friends told her about Max, the new musician in town. He had come to play cello with a symphony orchestra. The next night, Charlene and her friends went to see the orchestra performance, and when they went backstage afterward, Max took Charlene's hand and said, next time let's make it longer. She was taken with his instant romantic air, and he was taken with her charming manner and ecstatic looks. As they went out, The intensity grew. They seemed to understand each other deeply. They enjoyed the same thing, food, analyzing people, travel. They both thought, where have you been all my life? Over time, though, Max became moody. Actually, that's how he was. It just didn't show at first. When he was in a bad mood, he wanted to be left alone. Charlene wanted to talk about what was bothering him, but that irritated him. Just leave me alone, he would insist more and more forcefully. Charlene, however, would feel shut out. Plus, his moods didn't always happen at convenient time. Sometimes the couple was scheduled to go out, sometimes they had planned a special dinner alone. Either he didn't want to do it, or she would endure his sullen silence throughout the evening. If she tried to make light conversation, he would be disappointed in her. I thought you understood me. Friends, seeing how much they care about each other, urged them to work on this problem, but they both felt with a great sorrow that if the relationship were the right one, they wouldn't have to work so hard. If it were the right relationship, they would just be able to understand and honor each other's needs. In the growth mindset, there may still be that exciting initial combustions, but people in this mindset don't expect magic. They believe that a good lasting relationship comes from effort and from working through inevitable differences. But those with a fixed mindset don't buy that. Remember the fixed mindset idea that if you have ability, you shouldn't have to work hard. This is the same belief applied to relationship. If you are compatible, everything should just come naturally. Every single relationship expert disagrees with this. Aaron Beck, the renowned psychiatrist, said that one of the most destructive beliefs for the relationship is if we need to work at it, there is something seriously wrong with our relationship. Say John Gottman, a former relationship researcher, every marriage demands an effort to keep it on the right track. There is a constant tension between the forces that hold you together and those that can tear you apart. As with personal achievement, this belief that success should not need effort rob people of everything they need to make their relationship thrive is probably why so many relationships go stale, because people believe that being in love means never having to do anything taxing. Mind reading. Part of the love effort belief is the idea that couples should be able to read each other's mind. We are like one. My partner should know what I think, I feel, and need, and I should know what my partners think, feel, and need. But this is impossible. Mind reading instead of communicating effectively backfires. Elaine Savage, the family psychologist, described Tom and Lucy after 3 months together. Tom informed Lucy that there was an imbalance in their relationship. Lucy, reading his mind, decided Tom meant that he was less into the relationship than she was. She felt discouraged. Should she break off the relationship before he did? However, after a therapy session, Lucy got up the courage to find out what he meant. Tom, it turned out, had been using musical terms to convey his wish to fine-tune the relationship and move it to the next level. I almost fell into the shame trap. My husband and I had met a few months before and everything seems to be going great. Then one evening, as we were sitting together, he said to me, I need more space. Everything went blank and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was I completely mistaken about the relationship? Finally, I summoned my courage. What do you mean? I asked. He said, I need you to move over so I can have more room. I am glad, I asked, agreeing on everything. It's strange to believe in mind reading, but it makes sense when you realize that many people with a fixed mindset believe that couples should share all of each other's view. If you do, then you don't need communication. You can just assume your partner seeing things the way you do. Raymond Nee and his college had a couple come in and discuss their views of their relationship. This with the fixed mindset felt threatened and hostile after talking about even minor discrepancies in how they and their partners saw their relationship within a minor discrepancy threatened their belief that they shared all of each other's views. It's impossible for a couple to share all of each other's assumption and expectation. One may assume the wife will stop working and be supported the other and she will be an equal breadwinner. One may assume they will have a house in the suburb, the other that they will have a bohemian love nest. Michael and Robin had just finished the college and were about to get married. He was the bohemian love nest type. He imagined that after they were married, they would enjoy the young, hip Greenwich village life together. So when he found the ideal apartment, he thought she would be delighted. When she saw it, she went berserk. She had been living in a crummy little apartment all her life, and here it all was all over again. Married people were supposed to live in nice houses with the new cars parked outside the footpath tree, and it didn't get any better from here. Couples may erroneously believe they agree on each person's right and duties. Fill in the blank. As a husband, I have the right to blah blah blah, and my wife has the duty to blah blah blah. Same with the man. As a wife, I have a right to blah blah blah, and my husband has the duty to blah blah blah. Few things can make a partner more furious than having their rights violated, and a few things can make a partner more furious than having the other feel entitled to something you don't think is coming to them. John Gottman report, I have interviewed new lead men who told me with pride, I'm not going to wash the dishes, no way, that's women's job. 2 years later, the same guy asked me, why don't my wife and I have a sex anymore? Now, a couple may agree on traditional rules, that's up to them, but that's different from assuming it as an entitlement. When Janet, a financial analyst, and Bill, a real estate agent, met, he had just gotten a new apartment and I was thinking he would like to have a housewarming party, a dinner for a bunch of his friends. When Janet said, let's do it, he was thrilled. Her emphasis was on the us and the us. Because she was the more experienced cook and party giver, however, she did most of the preparation and she did it gladly. She was delighted to see how happy he was to be having this event. The problem started after the guests arrived. Bill just went to the party. He acted like a guest, like she was supposed to continue doing all the work. She was enraged. The major thing to do would have been to take him aside to have a discussion. Instead, she decided to teach him a lesson. She too went to the party. Fortunately, entitlement and retaliation did not become a pattern in their relationship. Communication did. In the future, things were discussed, not assumed. A no-effort relationship is a doomed relationship, not a great relationship. It takes work to communicate accurately, and it takes work to expose and resolve conflicting hopes and beliefs. It doesn't mean there is no they live happily ever after, but it's more like they work happily ever after. Two problems indicate character flaws. The second big difficulty with a fixed mindset is the belief that problems are a sign of deep-seated flaw. But just as there are no great achievement without setback, there are no great relationship without conflict and problem along the way. When people with a fixed mindset talk about their conflict, they assign blame. Sometimes they blame themselves, but often they blame their partner and they assign blame to a trait, a character flaw, but it doesn't end there. When people blame their partner personality for the problem, they feel anger and disgust toward them, and it barrels on. Since the problem comes from fixed trait, it cannot be solved. So once people with a fixed mindset see flaw in their partner, they become contemptuous of them and dissatisfied with the whole relationship. Sometimes people with a fixed mindset blind themselves to problem in the partner or relationship, so they won't have to go that route. Everybody thought you having flirtations. She was getting mysterious phone calls. She was often late picking up the kids. Her night out with the girls doubled. Her mind was often elsewhere. Her husband Charlie said she's going through a phase. All women go through times like this, he insisted. It doesn't mean she's got a guy. Charlie's best friend urged him to look up into it, but Charlie felt that if he confronted the reality it was negative, his world would come crashing down. In the fixed mindset, he would have to confront the idea that either the woman he loved was a bad person, or two, he was a bad person and drove her away, or three, the relationship was bad and irreparable. He couldn't handle any of those. It didn't occur to him that there were problems that could be solved. That she was sending him a message she desperately wanted him to hear. Don't take me for granted. I need more attention. A growth mindset does not mean he wouldn't necessarily confront her, but he would confront the situation. He would think about what was wrong, maybe explore the issue with a counselor, make an informed decision about what to do next. If there were a problem that was solved, at least there would be a change. Each one a loser. Penelope's friends sat at home complaining that there were no good men. Penelope went out and found them. Each time she would find a great guy and fell head over heels. He is the one. She would tell her friends as they began reading the bridal magazine and practical writing the announcement for the local paper. They would believe her because she was always a guy with a lot going for him. But then something would happen. It was over for one of them when she got her a tacky birthday present. Another put ketchup on his foot and sometimes wore white shoes. Another had bad electronic habit. His cell phone ethic was poor and he watched too much TV, and this is only a partial list. Assuming traits were fixed, Penelope would decide that she couldn't live with these flaws. But most of these were not deep, our serious character problem that couldn't be addressed with a little communication. My husband and I had been together almost a year, and as my birthday approached, I sent a clear message. I'm not married, sorry, but I like a good present. He said, isn't it a thought that counts? I replied, that's what people say when they don't want to put trouble into it. Once a year, I continue, we each have our day. I love you and I plan to put time in effort into choosing a present for you. I would like you to do that for me too. He's never let me down. Penelope assumed that somewhere out there was someone who was already perfect relationship expert. Daniel Weil said that choosing a partner is choosing a set of problems. There are no problem-free candidates. The trick is to acknowledge each other's limitation and build from there. Grow your mindset. After a rejection, do you feel judged, bitter, and vengeful, or do you feel hard or but hopeful or forgiving, learning and moving on? Think of the worst rejection you ever had. Get in touch with all of the feeling and see if you can view it from a growth mindset. What did you learn from it? Did it teach you something about what you want and don't want in your life? Did it teach you some positive things that were useful in later relationship? Can you forgive that person and wish them well? Can you let go of the bitterness? Pictures your ideal love relationship. Does it involve perfect compatibility? No disagreement, no compromises, no hard work? Please think again. In every relationship, issues arise. Try to see them from a growth mindset. Problem can be a vehicle for developing greater understanding and intimacy. Allow your partner to air his or her differences. Listen carefully and discuss them in a patient and caring manner. You may be surprised at the closeness this creates. Are you a blamer like me? It's not good for a relationship to pin everything on your partner. Create your own moral rights and blame him instead. Better yet, work toward curing yourself of the need to blame. Move beyond thinking about fault and blame all the time. Think of me trying to do that too. Are you shy? Then you really need to growth mindset. Even if it does not cure your shyness, it will help keep it from messing up your social interaction. Next time you are venturing into a social situation, think about these things. How social skills are things you can improve and how social interaction are for learning and enjoyment, not judgment. Keep practicing